The cabin stood as a solitary beacon against the encroaching twilight, its rough-hewn timbers weathered by years of relentless mountain storms. Within, Elara, a woman whose life had become a tapestry woven from the threads of solitude, moved with a quiet purpose. Her hands, calloused yet gentle, stoked the fire, its warmth a stark contrast to the biting chill that seeped through the cracks in the walls. Elara, a herbalist and a recluse, sought not the company of townsfolk, but the silent communion of the whispering woods. Her days were spent deciphering the language of the flora, her nights listening to the symphony of the wild. The silence was her companion, the solitude her solace. But the silence was broken, a faint whimper echoing through the dense forest, carried on the wind like a desperate plea. Elara, her senses honed by years of living in the wild, followed the sound, her heart pounding with a mixture of apprehension and compassion. She found it huddled beneath a snow-laden pine, a wolf, its silver-gray fur matted with blood, its breath ragged and shallow. The animal, a magnificent creature of the forest, had collapsed, its life force ebbing away with each labored breath. Elara, her hands as skilled in healing as they were in gathering herbs, recognized the signs of a cruel trap, a snare that had torn through muscle and bone. The wound was deep, the animal's pain a tangible presence in the stillness of the forest. This intrusion of suffering, this violation of the wild's harmony, was a wound to Elara herself, a disruption of the delicate balance she held sacred. She knew she could not leave the animal to die, not in this cold, not in this solitude. She carried the wolf back to her cabin, its weight heavy in her arms, its presence a silent burden. The fire, now a roaring blaze, cast long shadows across the room, illuminating the wolf's suffering. Elara, her movements swift and precise, began to tend to the wound, her touch gentle despite the urgency of the situation. The wolf, its eyes glazed with pain, watched her with a mixture of fear and trust, its breath coming in shallow gasps. The cabin, once a sanctuary of solitude, now became a haven of healing, a place where the lines between human and animal blurred, where compassion transcended the boundaries of species. Days turned into nights, the rhythm of Elara's life now dictated by the wolf's fragile existence. She bathed the wound with herbal infusions, fed the animal broth thickened with medicinal herbs, and spoke to it in a soft, soothing voice, her words a balm to its pain. The wolf, its strength slowly returning, became a silent patient, its eyes following Elara's every move, its presence a constant companion in the solitude of the cabin. A bond formed, a silent understanding that transcended language, a connection forged in the crucible of suffering and healing. Elara named the wolf Shadow for its elusive nature, its ability to blend seamlessly into the darkness of the forest. The cabin, once a place of quiet solitude, now echoed with the soft padding of Shadow's paws, the gentle rasp of its breath, the occasional whimper of pain. Elara, her life now intertwined with the wolf's, found a purpose beyond her solitary existence, a connection to the wild that deepened her understanding of its delicate balance. But the peace was fragile, a thin veneer over the underlying tension that permeated the forest. The trap that had wounded Shadow was not the work of a local hunter, but of outsiders, men who saw the wild as a resource to be exploited, its creatures as trophies to be claimed. Their presence was a shadow over the land, a threat to the harmony that Elara held sacred. The signs were subtle, the tracks of heavy boots in the snow, the faint scent of metal and smoke carried on the wind, the absence of familiar animal calls. But Elara, her senses honed by years of living in the wild, recognized the danger, the encroaching darkness that threatened to disrupt the delicate balance of her sanctuary. She knew she had to protect Shadow, not just from the lingering effects of its wound, but from the unseen threat that lurked in the shadows of the forest. Shadow's recovery was slow, its strength returning in fits and starts, its movements still hampered by the lingering effects of the wound. Elara, her patience unwavering, continued to tend to its needs, her days filled with the rhythm of healing, her nights punctuated by the soft rasp of Shadow's breath. But the peace was shattered, the tranquility of the cabin disrupted by the growing sense of unease that permeated the forest. The outsiders, their presence now a tangible threat, had begun to encroach upon Alara's territory, their traps and snares scattered throughout the woods like cruel reminders of their intrusion. Alara, her anger simmering beneath the surface, found herself torn between her desire to protect Shadow and her need to defend her sanctuary. She knew she could not confront the outsiders directly, not with her limited resources, not with the lingering effects of Shadow's wound. She was a healer, not a warrior. Her strength lay in her knowledge of the wild, not in the wielding of weapons. She found herself questioning her own resolve, her ability to protect the delicate balance she held sacred. The solitude that had once been her solace now became a prison, her cabin a refuge under siege. She felt trapped, isolated, her connection to the wild now a source of anxiety, a constant reminder of the encroaching darkness. Shadow, sensing Alara's unease, became restless, its eyes constantly scanning the shadows, its ears twitching at the slightest sound. The bond between them, once a source of comfort, now became a shared burden, a silent acknowledgement of the danger that lurked beyond the walls of the cabin. One night, as the wind howled through the trees, carrying the scent of snow and fear, a new sound echoed through the forest, a deep, guttural growl that sent shivers down Alara's spine. It was a bear, a massive creature of the wild, its presence a stark reminder of the raw power of nature. But this bear was different, its growl filled with a strange urgency, its movements erratic, its presence a harbinger of something more than just a nocturnal visitor. Alara, her heart pounding, grabbed her lantern and stepped outside, Shadow following close behind, its eyes glowing in the darkness. The bear, its form silhouetted against the moonlit snow, stood at the edge of the clearing, its eyes fixed on the cabin, its growl a low, menacing rumble. Alara, her fear momentarily forgotten, recognized the animal's distress, its erratic behavior a sign of something amiss. She approached cautiously, her voice a soothing murmur, her lantern casting a warm glow on the bear's massive form. The bear, its growl subsiding, turned and disappeared into the forest, its departure a silent invitation, a plea for help. Alara, her curiosity piqued, followed the bear, Shadow at her side, its presence a silent reassurance. The trail led deep into the woods to a hidden clearing where a scene of carnage awaited them. The outsiders, their camp a smoldering ruin, their bodies scattered among the trees, their weapons and traps broken and scattered. The bear, its fur matted with blood, stood guard over the clearing, its eyes filled with a primal rage. Alara, her breath catching in her throat, recognized the signs of a brutal attack, a violent confrontation that had left no survivors. But the bear's wounds, deep and ragged, told a story of a desperate struggle, a fight for survival against overwhelming odds. The bear, its strength waning, collapsed to the ground, its eyes pleading for help. Alara, her heart heavy with grief and compassion, recognized the animal's sacrifice, its desperate attempt to protect its territory from the intruders. She approached cautiously, her movements gentle, her voice a soothing murmur. But as she reached out to tend to the bear's wounds, Shadow, its eyes filled with a sudden rage, lunged forward, its teeth bared, its growl a menacing snarl. Alara, her heart sinking, recognized the betrayal, the primal instinct that overrode the bond they had formed. Shadow, its loyalty to its own kind stronger than its connection to Alara, saw the bear not as a victim, but as a threat, a rival for territory, a predator to be eliminated. The attack was swift and brutal, a clash of primal forces that shattered the fragile peace of the clearing. Shadow, its teeth and claws a blur of motion, lunged at the bear, its rage fueled by instinct and territoriality. The bear, weakened by its wounds, fought back with a desperate ferocity, its roars echoing through the forest, its strength waning with each passing moment. Alara, her heart pounding, tried to intervene, her voice a desperate plea for peace, her hands reaching out to separate the combatants. But her efforts were futile, her presence ignored, her voice lost in the cacophony of the battle. The clearing, once a scene of carnage, now became a battleground, a place where the lines between predator and prey blurred, where the bond between human and animal shattered. The battle raged on, the ground stained with blood, the air thick with the scent of fear and death. Shadow, its teeth tearing into the bear's flesh, its growls a triumphant snarl, seemed driven by a primal bloodlust. The bear, its strength failing, its roars turning into whimpers, fought with a desperate ferocity, its eyes pleading for mercy, its spirit refusing to yield. Ilara, her heart breaking, watched the brutal spectacle, her trust in Shadow shattered, her understanding of the wild irrevocably changed. The bond they had formed, the silent pact they had made, now seemed a fragile illusion, a fleeting moment of peace in a world ruled by instinct and survival. The forest, once a sanctuary of harmony, now became a battleground of primal forces, a place where compassion was a weakness, where survival was the only law. The clearing, once a scene of carnage, now became a symbol of Ilara's shattered illusions, a reminder of the fragility of trust, the brutality of nature. Shadow, its victory secured, stood over the fallen bear, its chest heaving, its eyes glowing with a feral intensity. Ilara, her heart heavy with grief and disillusionment, turned away, her footsteps heavy, her spirit broken. She returned to her cabin, the silence now a deafening echo of her shattered trust, the solitude a cold reminder of her isolation. The cabin, once a haven of healing, now became a prison of despair, a place where the lines between human and animal blurred, where the bond between them was irrevocably broken. The silence in the cabin was heavy, a suffocating presence that mirrored Ilara's despair. Shadow, its victory a hollow triumph, remained distant, its eyes filled with a guarded intensity, its presence a constant reminder of the betrayal. Ilara, her heart aching, tried to reconcile the wolf's actions with the bond they had shared, the trust she had placed in its loyalty. She tried to understand the primal instinct that had driven its rage, the territoriality that had overridden its compassion. But the image of the fallen bear, its eyes pleading for mercy, its spirit broken, haunted her waking hours, a constant reminder of the brutality of nature, the fragility of trust. She sought solace in her herbs, her knowledge of the wild, her connection to the ancient rhythms of the forest. She tried to find a way to forgive Shadow, to rebuild the shattered trust, to restore the harmony that had been disrupted. But the wound was deep, the betrayal a scar that refused to heal. A moment of false hope flickered when Shadow, its eyes filled with a remorseful gaze, approached Ilara, its movements tentative, its presence a silent apology. Ilara, her heart yearning for reconciliation, reached out to the wolf, her touch gentle, her voice a soothing murmur. But the moment was fleeting, the hope dashed when Shadow, its eyes suddenly filled with a guarded intensity, retreated back into the shadows of the cabin. Ilara, her spirit sinking, recognized the futility of her efforts, the impossibility of bridging the gap between human and animal, the chasm that separated their worlds. The past, a tapestry woven from memories of solitude and connection, now became a haunting reminder of her naivety, her misplaced trust, her inability to understand the primal forces that governed the wild. She remembered her childhood, her fascination with the forest, her belief in the inherent goodness of nature. She remembered her father, a hunter who taught her the delicate balance of the wild, the respect for all living things. She remembered her mother, a healer who taught her the power of herbs, the importance of compassion. But those memories, once a source of comfort, now became a burden, a reminder of the innocence she had lost, the illusions she had shattered. The cabin, once a refuge of solitude, now became a prison of despair, a place where the lines between human and animal blurred, where the bond between them was irrevocably broken. The silence was deafening, a constant reminder of the shattered trust, the looming failure. Ilara, her spirit broken, her heart heavy with grief and disillusionment, retreated into the depths of her despair, her connection to the wild severed, her purpose lost. She spent her days in a haze of sorrow, her movements aimless, her thoughts consumed by the image of the fallen bear, the betrayal of Shadow. She questioned her own beliefs, her understanding of the wild, her ability to live in harmony with nature. She wondered if she had been wrong all along, if her compassion was a weakness, her trust a folly. She felt isolated, abandoned, her connection to the forest now a source of pain, a constant reminder of her failure. The cabin, once a symbol of her independence, now became a tomb of her despair, a place where the shadows deepened, the silence intensified, the hope dwindled. Shadow, its presence, a constant reminder of the betrayal, remained distant, its eyes filled with a guarded intensity, its movements furtive, its spirit restless. The cabin, once a haven of healing, now became a battleground of primal forces, a place where the lines between human and animal blurred, where the bond between them was irrevocably broken. The forest, once a sanctuary of harmony, now became a symbol of Ilara's shattered illusions, a reminder of the fragility of trust, the brutality of nature. The wind howled through the trees, its mournful cry echoing Ilara's despair, its presence a constant reminder of the encroaching darkness, the looming failure. The night was long, the silence heavy, the hope extinguished. In the depths of her despair, when all hope seemed lost, when the darkness threatened to consume her, Ilara remembered the bear, its eyes pleading for mercy, its spirit refusing to yield. She remembered its sacrifice, its desperate attempt to protect its territory, its unwavering loyalty to its own kind. She realized that she had judged Shadow too harshly, that she had failed to understand the primal forces that governed its actions, the instinct that had driven its rage. She understood that Shadow's betrayal was not a personal affront, but a manifestation of its nature, a reminder that the wild was not a place of sentiment, but a realm of survival. She recognized her own naivety, her misplaced trust, her inability to reconcile her human ideals with the primal realities of the forest. She understood that she could not change the nature of the wild, but she could learn to live in harmony with it, to respect its boundaries, to accept its inherent brutality. She found a renewed sense of purpose, a determination to rebuild the shattered trust, to restore the harmony that had been disrupted, to protect the delicate balance of her sanctuary. She began to observe Shadow with a new understanding, a deeper appreciation for its primal instincts, its unwavering loyalty to its own kind. She recognized its restlessness, its guarded intensity, its constant scanning of the shadows, not as signs of betrayal, but as indicators of a lingering threat, a danger that still lurked in the forest. She realized that Shadow was not her enemy, but an ally, a guardian, a protector of the wild. An unexpected ally arrived in the form of a young woman, a traveler named Lyra, who stumbled upon Ilara's cabin, her eyes filled with fear, her clothes torn and bloodied. Lyra, a victim of the outsider's cruelty, had escaped their clutches, her survival a testament to her resilience, her determination to seek refuge. Ilara, her heart filled with compassion, welcomed Lyra into her cabin, her presence a beacon of hope in the darkness. Lyra, her wounds tended, her spirit soothed, shared her story, her harrowing escape, her knowledge of the outsider's plans, their intent to exploit the forest, to capture its creatures, to desecrate its sacred spaces. Ilara, her resolve strengthened, recognized the urgency of the situation, the need to act swiftly, to protect the forest from the encroaching darkness. She understood that she could not face the outsiders alone, that she needed allies, that she needed a plan. Ilara and Lyra, their bond forged in shared suffering, their resolve strengthened by a common purpose, devised a plan to confront the outsiders, to protect the forest from their destructive intent. They recognized the importance of using the outsiders' own tactics against them, of turning their traps and snares into weapons of defense, of using their knowledge of the forest to their advantage. They enlisted the help of Shadow, its primal instincts and territorial knowledge invaluable in their efforts. They gathered the villagers, their initial skepticism replaced by a newfound respect for Ilara's wisdom, their fear of the outsiders outweighing their distrust of the wild. They shared Lyra's story, their harrowing escape, their knowledge of the outsiders' plans, their intent to desecrate the forest. They appealed to the villagers' sense of community, their connection to the land, their responsibility to protect their home. The villagers, their hearts stirred, their spirits ignited, agreed to join the fight. Their numbers a testament to their resolve, their unity a symbol of their strength. The gathering storm echoed the growing tension, the impending confrontation, the looming battle for the soul of the forest. The outsiders, their presence now a tangible threat, their numbers growing, their intent clear, prepared to launch their final assault, their greed and ignorance blinding them to the power of the wild, the unity of its defenders. Elara, Lyra, Shadow, and the villagers, their hearts pounding, their spirits high, prepared to meet the challenge, their determination fueled by a shared purpose, their courage strengthened by a common bond. The forest, once a symbol of isolation, now became a battleground of hope, a place where the lines between human and animal blurred, where the bond between them was unbreakable. The night was dark, the air thick with anticipation, the silence broken only by the whispers of the wind, the rustling of leaves, the beating of hearts. The battle for the Whispering Woods was about to begin. The confrontation was swift and decisive, a clash of primal forces and human ingenuity that echoed through the ancient trees. Elara and Lyra, their knowledge of the forest and the outsider's tactics, led the charge, their movements guided by a deep understanding of the land, their actions fueled by a burning desire to protect their home. Shadow, its primal instincts honed, its territorial knowledge invaluable, moved like a phantom, its presence a constant threat, its actions a swift and decisive strike against the intruders. The villagers, their hearts filled with courage, their spirits ignited, fought with a ferocity born of desperation, their unity a symbol of their strength, their determination a testament to their love for the land. The outsiders, their greed and ignorance blinding them to the power of the wild, their arrogance a fatal flaw, were overwhelmed by the coordinated attack, their numbers dwindling, their resolve crumbling. They retreated, their presence a stain on the pristine landscape, their departure a victory for the defenders of the forest. The clearing, once a symbol of carnage, now became a scene of liberation, a place where the balance was restored, the harmony reestablished. The fallen bear, its sacrifice remembered, its spirit honored, became a symbol of the enduring bond between human and animal, the unbreakable connection between the creatures of the wild. Shadow, its betrayal forgiven, its loyalty reaffirmed, stood beside Elara, its presence a testament to the restored trust, the renewed harmony. Elara and Lyra, their bond strengthened, their purpose fulfilled, looked out at the Whispering Woods, their hearts filled with a quiet satisfaction, their spirits soaring with a newfound sense of peace. The villagers, their fears allayed, their respect for the wild rekindled, returned to their homes, their hearts filled with gratitude, their spirits lifted by a shared victory. The forest, once a battleground of primal forces, now became a sanctuary of peace, a place where the lines between human and animal blurred, where the bond between them was unbreakable. The silence returned, not as a deafening echo of despair, but as a soothing symphony of nature's rhythms, a gentle reminder of the enduring harmony, the restored balance. The cabin, once a symbol of isolation, now became a haven of community, a place where the stories of courage and compassion were shared, where the lessons of the past were learned, where the promise of the future was celebrated. Elara, her life now intertwined with the fate of the Whispering Woods, continued her work as a healer, her knowledge of the wild a beacon of hope, her compassion a symbol of enduring harmony. Lyra, her spirit healed, her purpose found, remained by Elara's side, her presence a testament to the power of resilience, the strength of human connection. The Whispering Woods, its secrets guarded, its balance protected, its harmony restored, stood as a testament to the enduring power of compassion, the unbreakable bond between humans and the wild, the promise of a future where both could thrive in peace. The wind whispered through the trees, its voice a gentle lullaby, a promise of enduring harmony, a reminder of the silent pact, the enduring bond, the unbreakable connection between the creatures of the wild.